Not everyone who smiles at you is happy to see you. Not everyone who calls you a friend is a friend. And not everyone who says, "I care about you," has earned the right to be trusted with your heart. Sometimes the person draining you is the very person you keep defending. You keep explaining their behavior. You keep making excuses. You keep saying, maybe they are going through something. But while you are busy understanding them, they are becoming comfortable misunderstanding you. While you are giving, they are taking. While you are showing up, they are disappearing. And the hardest truth is this: some people do not miss you. They miss what you do for them. They do not miss your presence. They miss your availability. They do not value your heart. They value what your heart provides. And there comes a moment when you have to stop asking, why are they treating me this way? And start asking, why am I continuing to accept it? Because your life is too precious to spend proving your worth to people who benefit from making you question it. Life will teach you lessons that no classroom ever could. It will teach you that love without boundaries becomes exhaustion. Kindness without wisdom becomes self-neglect. And loyalty without discernment can keep you standing beside people who have never truly stood beside you. You will meet people who arrive when they need something. They will call when they are lonely. They will remember you when they need help. They will disappear when you need them. And if you are not careful, you will mistake their need for love. But purpose requires you to wake up. Purpose requires you to become honest with yourself. You cannot keep pouring from a cup that nobody helps refill. You cannot keep sacrificing your peace just to keep someone else comfortable. And you cannot keep calling it love when it constantly requires you to abandon yourself. Sometimes God allows certain people to reveal themselves, not to destroy you, but to teach you discernment. Not every goodbye is a loss. Some goodbyes are protection. Some distances are healing. Some endings are the beginning of finally becoming who you were meant to be. So listen closely, because these signs may hurt. But sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. Pay attention to the pattern, not the promise, the pattern. Because people can say beautiful things while their behavior tells an entirely different story. When everything is going well for them, where are they? When they are celebrating, do they remember your name? When life is easy, do they call just to hear your voice? When they have good news, do they want to share it with you? And then ask yourself the harder question. When you are struggling, where are they? When your heart is heavy, do they notice? When you are exhausted, do they ask, are you okay? When you need somebody to listen, do they make time? Or do they suddenly disappear until they need something from you? They need your time. They need your money. They need your advice. They need your connections. They need your attention. They need your energy. And somehow, every time they need something, they remember exactly where to find you. But when you need something, silence when you are hurting, silence when you need encouragement, silence when you need someone to stand beside you, suddenly everybody is busy. And you have to understand something. That is not mutual care, that is convenience. And there is a difference. A person who truly cares about you does not only knock on your door when they need something from inside your house. They come when there is nothing to gain. They check on you. They encourage you. They listen to you. They sit with you. They notice when your voice sounds different. They notice when your smile is forced. They notice when you are quieter than usual. They notice when you are carrying something you are not saying. Because real care pays attention. Real love notices. Real friendship does not require you to perform. You should not have to become useful before you become valuable. You should not have to solve problems before somebody wants to know how you are doing. And you must stop measuring relationships by how long you have known someone. History does not automatically equal loyalty. You can know somebody for 20 years and still not be known by them. You can share memories with someone and still discover that they were only attached to what you provided. You can love somebody deeply and still realize that you need to walk away. That does not make you cold. It does not make you selfish. It means you finally understand that your energy has value, your time has value, your heart has value, your peace has value. And once you understand that, you stop handing yourself to people who only know how to take. You begin to watch, you observe, you become patient, you stop explaining, you stop chasing, you stop forcing people to show you that they care. Instead, you give them room to reveal themselves. And sometimes silence reveals more than 1,000 conversations ever could. Discipline means learning that you do not have to answer every call. You do not have to solve every problem. You do not have to rescue everybody. You do not have to carry people who refuse to carry themselves. You are allowed to say, I cannot do that. You are allowed to say, not this time. You are allowed to say no, and say it without guilt. No without a 10-minute explanation. No without fear. No without apologizing for protecting your peace. Because every time you say yes to something that destroys your peace, you are saying no to yourself. Every time you abandon your own needs to keep somebody else comfortable, you teach yourself that their happiness matters more than your well-being. And you cannot build a purposeful life while constantly betraying yourself. Your kindness is a gift. Do not turn it into an invitation for people to use you. Your generosity is beautiful. But generosity needs boundaries. Your heart can remain soft without becoming available to everyone. You can care without carrying. You can love without rescuing. You can forgive without reopening every door. And you can walk away without hatred. Sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is simply stepping back and allowing people to experience life without your constant assistance. Let them figure it out. Let them handle their own responsibilities. Let them discover what happens when you are no longer available at the first sound of their need. Because you were not created to disappear inside other people's needs. You were created to live, to grow, to heal, to become, to pursue your purpose. And if somebody only remembers you when they need something, do not spend your life begging them to remember you when they don't. Pay attention to the pattern, not the promise, the pattern. There are people who know your usefulness, but do not know your heart. They know what you can do, but they do not know what you dream about. They know what you can give, but they do not know what you are struggling with. They know how strong you are, but they never stop to ask what it costs you to remain strong. Think about that. Really think about it. Have they ever asked what you want from life? Have they ever asked what keeps you awake at night? Have they ever asked what you are afraid of? Have they ever asked what you are praying for? Have they ever sat beside you when you had absolutely nothing to offer? No money, no favors, no advice, no solutions, just you. That is where you learn the truth, because when the benefits disappear, the relationship gets tested. Remove the money, remove the favors. Remove the connections, remove the constant availability, remove your ability to solve every problem, and watch who still remains. Do not be afraid of that test. Let people reveal themselves. You do not need to chase clarity. You do not need to interrogate people about whether they care. You do not need to beg someone to prove that you matter. Sometimes clarity arrives when you stop providing access. Stop answering every request. Stop volunteering every solution. Stop making yourself indispensable. Step her back, become quiet, and observe. Who checks on you when you are no longer useful? Who calls because they miss you rather than because they need something? Who celebrates your existence instead of simply consuming your energy? Those are the questions that matter, because you are more than what you can do for people. You are more than your job, more than your money, more than your position, more than your connections, more than your accomplishments, more than your ability to solve problems. You are a human being before you are a resource. You have a soul, you have dreams, you have fears, you have wounds, you have hopes that nobody else can see. And you deserve relationships where someone wants to know you, not just what they can get from you. If somebody only loves the version of you that serves them, understand what that means. They do not love your freedom. They love your availability. They do not value your presence. They value your usefulness. They do not necessarily miss you. They may simply miss what you used to provide, and that realization may break your heart. Let it. Do not run from the truth because the truth hurts. Some truths hurt because they are cutting through an illusion you spent years protecting. Some truths break the chains that comfort once built. You may have to grieve the person you thought they were. You may have to grieve the relationship you hoped it would become. You may have to accept that you gave your best to someone who only valued the benefits of having you around. But grief is not the end. Sometimes grief is the beginning of wisdom, and faith teaches you something powerful. Your value does not come from human approval. Your worth was never determined by how many people need you. Your purpose was never dependent on being useful to everybody. You do not have to earn the right to be loved. You do not have to exhaust yourself to deserve affection. You do not have to perform goodness every day just to convince somebody that you matter. So stop performing for love. Stop exhausting yourself to earn affection. Stop giving pieces of yourself away just to keep people around. Let people who only came for what you provide walk away. It may hurt, but sometimes losing access to you is exactly how you regain access to yourself. And when you finally stop asking, "What can I do to make them stay?" you begin asking the question that changes everything. Who am I becoming when I stop living for their approval? That is where your healing begins. That is where your strength returns. That is where your purpose becomes louder than your need to be accepted. The right people will not require you to destroy yourself to prove that you care. They will care about your heart, not just your hands, your presence, not just your usefulness, you. And that difference changes everything. Anybody can stand beside you when the sun is shining. Anybody can smile with you when you are winning. Anybody can celebrate when everything is working in your favor. But storms reveal character. Storms reveal people. When life becomes difficult, masks begin to fall. Everybody wants to celebrate the victory. Few people want to sit with you through the battle. Everybody wants to take pictures with you at the finish line. Few people want to walk beside you when your feet are bleeding. That is why you must watch what happens when life becomes difficult. When you are hurting, who calls? When you fail, who stays? When you lose something important, who listens? When your confidence disappears, who reminds you of who you are? When you are emotionally exhausted, who gives you permission to rest? When you have nothing positive to say, who is still willing to sit in the silence with you? Because real relationships are not built only during beautiful moments. They are built in the uncomfortable ones. They are built when the money is gone, when the celebration ends, when the confidence disappears, when the tears come, when you are not entertaining, when you are not useful, when you cannot give anything back. That is when you discover who truly cares. You may discover that some people love your happiness but cannot handle your pain. They want the laughter. They do not want the tears. They want your confidence. They do not want your vulnerability. They want your success. They do not know how to sit with your struggle. They want the finished product. They do not want to witness the process. And that is painful, because sometimes the people you thought would hold your hand are the very people who disappear when you need them most. But listen carefully. Pain is sometimes a messenger. Pain tells you what your heart has been trying to say. Pain exposes what comfort allowed you to ignore. Pain shows you where you have been giving too much and receiving too little. Do not waste that lesson. You cannot force someone to care. You cannot negotiate someone into loyalty. You cannot beg somebody to value your presence. And you should never have to. Love that has to be begged for will eventually become another form of exhaustion. If you constantly have to remind somebody that you matter, step back, become quiet. Observe, let their actions speak. Stop explaining your worth. Stop chasing their attention. Stop asking why they changed. Give them space to show you who they really are. Because when you stop chasing, you will hear things you could not hear while you were running after them. You will hear the silence. You will see the distance. You will notice who reaches back. You will notice who checks on you. You will notice who stays. And perhaps most importantly, you will discover yourself again. You will remember the person you were before you started begging people to stay. There is strength in standing alone. There is strength in rebuilding. There is strength in wiping your own tears and getting back up. There is strength in saying, I will survive this without begging anyone to stay. Say it again. I will survive this without begging anyone to stay. You may cry. Keep moving. You may feel lonely. Keep moving. You may not understand why people left. Keep moving. Your temporary loneliness does not mean your life has lost its purpose. Your struggle is not proof that you are abandoned. Sometimes it is proof that you are being redirected. Sometimes the people you wanted beside you were never meant to walk into your next chapter. Sometimes God removes the crowd so you can finally hear your own purpose. And sometimes the silence that breaks your heart is the same silence that gives you enough room to hear the voice within you saying, get up, you still have somewhere to go. This is where manipulation often hides, not always in shouting, not always in anger. Sometimes manipulation sounds like disappointment. Sometimes it sounds like guilt. Sometimes it sounds like, I thought you cared about me. You finally say no, and suddenly you are selfish. You finally protect your time, and suddenly you are difficult. You finally stop tolerating disrespect, and suddenly you have changed. And you know what? Yes, you have changed. But perhaps you changed because you finally learned something that pain had been trying to teach you for years. You learned that peace matters. You learned that your time matters. You learned that your emotional energy matters. You learned that kindness does not mean weakness. You learned that forgiveness does not mean unlimited access. You learned that loving people does not require you to tolerate everything they do. And that lesson can make people uncomfortable, especially people who benefited from the old version of you. The version who always said yes. The version who answered every call. The version who apologized even when you were the one being hurt. The version who kept giving because you were afraid that saying no would make people leave. But hear me clearly. A boundary is not rejection. A boundary is clarity. It says, this is what I will accept. It says, this is what I will not accept. It says, I can love you without allowing you to destroy my peace. Healthy people may not always like your boundaries, but they will respect them. Manipulative people will punish you for having them. They will say, after everything I've done for you, they will remind you of old favors. They will bring up the sacrifices they made. They will make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. They will pressure you. They will test you. They will see whether your no is really a maybe. And this is where discipline becomes necessary, because a boundary is not a boundary if you remove it every time somebody gets angry. You have to stand firm, calmly, quietly, without hatred. Without revenge, without becoming the very person who hurt you. You do not need to scream to be strong. You do not need to insult anybody. You do not need to explain yourself for hours. Sometimes strength sounds like one peaceful sentence. That does not work for me. And then silence. Let that sentence stand. Let your actions support your words, because people learn how to treat you by what you repeatedly allow. If you keep accepting disrespect, some people will assume disrespect is the price of having access to you. But when you establish a boundary, you teach them something different. You teach them that your kindness has limits, your availability has limits, your patience has limits, and your peace is not negotiable. You can love someone from a distance. You can forgive someone without giving them another opportunity to wound you. You can wish somebody well and still choose not to walk with them. That is not hatred, that is maturity, that is strength, that is wisdom born from experience. And sometimes faith requires you to release what you keep trying to control. You can pray for someone without keeping them close. You can forgive them without trusting them immediately. You can hope they change without waiting around for the change to happen. Let God handle what you cannot. Your responsibility is to protect what has been placed in your care, and that includes your heart, your mind, your time, your peace. Remember this. Protecting your peace is not cruelty. It is stewardship. You were given one life. One mind, one heart, one journey. Do not hand the keys to your peace to somebody who has already proven they do not know how to handle it. You do not owe everybody access. You do not owe everybody an explanation. And you certainly do not owe anybody the destruction of your peace just because they are uncomfortable with your growth. Stand firm, stay kind, stay humble, but stay clear, because the moment you understand that boundaries are not walls designed to keep love out, but doors designed to control who gets access to your life, you stop feeling guilty for protecting yourself, and you begin walking forward with a different kind of peace. The peace of knowing that saying no to what destroys you is sometimes the first time you have truly said yes to yourself. Here is one of the hardest signs to accept. Sometimes people do not miss you. They miss the version of you they could control. They miss the version that never said no. They miss the version that apologized for everything. They miss the version that accepted disrespect just to keep the peace. They miss the version that was always available. And sometimes they loved your struggle because your struggle made you easier to influence. That truth can hurt, but you need to hear it. Your old version was always available. Your old version kept making excuses for people. Your old version tolerated what should have been unacceptable. Your old version needed their approval. Your old version was afraid that if you walked away, you would have nobody left. But then something changed. You started healing. You started thinking differently. You started questioning what you once accepted. You started protecting your time. You started protecting your peace. You started praying differently. You started working on yourself. You started becoming disciplined. You started becoming comfortable with your own company. You stopped chasing people. You stopped begging for attention. You stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. And suddenly they looked at you and said, "You've changed." Yes, you have, and you were supposed to. Growth is change. Healing is change. Wisdom is change. Purpose is change. If you are truly growing, you cannot remain the same person. You cannot ask God to transform your life and then insist on remaining the same person who tolerated everything that kept you broken. You cannot pray for strength and keep choosing weakness. You cannot ask for peace while continuously returning to chaos. At some point, your prayers have to become decisions. Your faith has to become action. Your healing has to become boundaries. And your purpose has to become discipline. Sometimes your greatest growth will offend people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Let them be offended. You are not responsible for protecting somebody else's comfort at the expense of your destiny. You do not need permission to become stronger. You do not need applause to become wiser. You do not need everybody to understand your journey. Keep going, keep healing, keep praying, keep building, keep becoming. There will be people who preferred you when you were easier to manipulate. There will be people who preferred you when you were desperate for their approval. There will be people who become uncomfortable when you stop needing them. Do not go backward just to make them comfortable. Do not shrink so somebody else can feel tall. Do not silence your growth because somebody misses the person you used to be. And when someone only loves the version of you they can use, do not fight to convince them to love the new you. Let them go, not with hatred, not with revenge, not with bitterness. Let them go with peace. Because the people meant for your next chapter will not demand that you return to an old version of yourself just so they can feel comfortable. They will respect your growth. They will celebrate your healing. They will encourage your discipline. They will honor your boundaries, and they will not make you feel guilty for becoming stronger. You have survived too much to keep shrinking. You have cried too many tears to keep begging. You have learned too many lessons to keep repeating them. So stand. Stand in your truth. Stand in your boundaries. Stand in your faith. Stand in your purpose. Even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if you have to stand alone, stand. Because the moment you stop abandoning yourself to keep somebody else in your life is the moment something powerful begins to change inside you. You stop asking, will they still love me? And you start asking, do I still love the person I become when I am around them? That question can change your life. And if someone walks away because you finally learned to value yourself, let them walk. Do not chase. Do not beg. Do not reopen the door simply because the silence feels uncomfortable. Sometimes the door closing behind you is the sound of your life opening in front of you. Sometimes losing access to you is not their punishment. It is your freedom. And perhaps, for the first time, you will understand that choosing yourself was never selfish. It was necessary.